3 spine-chilling true hidden camera horrors exposed, sinister moments you won't believe. Kate, a dedicated nurse and single mother, had always lived in her modest Springfield home, a sanctuary just steps away from the chaos of her graveyard shift. But peace turned into tension when she began to notice something terrifying on the live feed from the hidden camera intended to keep watch over her 2 young kids. One late night, as her exhaustion hung like a weight on her shoulders, she leaned closer to the screen. Her heart jolted in her chest. Outside her front window, a dark figure loomed at the edge of her yard, barely moving, cast in shadows like a haunting nightmare come to life. She blinked hard, her fingers trembling as she tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was just a trick of the light, but deep down, she knew there was something wrong. Night after night, the figure returned, creeping closer to her threshold. Cold dread flooded her body. Kate could feel her mind slipping, the shadows encroaching on her reality. Each timid mention to the police about the lurker was brushed off as paranoia. "You're just tired, miss," they'd insist with dismissive smirks. But she wasn't just tired, she was terrified. How could they dismiss the threat so easily? Was her extremely busy nursing job already affecting her mind? Doubt blossomed, but fear gnawed at her, an absence of safety thick in the air. Instead of succumbing to her plight, she set out to uncover the mystery. Armed with caffeine and a fervent need for answers, Kate gingerly knocked on neighbors' doors, trying not to shake. Most were friendly, but Mr. Collins, the elderly councilman with a knack for charming smiles, always lingered nearby, almost too attentive. Whispers of odd happenings slipped from lips, the kinds of stories that linger like dust in forgotten corners, tales of disappearances woven about their neighborhood. Turning to her hidden cameras, she braced herself. Each horrifying video feed replayed horrors that twisted her stomach, confirming her suspicions. The figure was there, night after night, always watching, an undeniable presence in the frame. Time ebbed away, the incessant scanning of clips wearing her down. The more she sought to protect her children, the more she felt a sinister shadow pursuing her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as she prepared to confront Mr. Collins, a bone-chilling discovery nearly knocked the air from her lungs. Old news clippings revealed a tragic incident tied squarely to him, an eerily familiar overlap with her very home. What she had once perceived as safety now dripped with foreboding. Just when she thought it couldn't get worse, dread coiled tighter in her chest, then came the moment Kate never expected. She rushed into her living room, ready to confront her seemingly innocuous neighbor. But her heart lurched as she found Jamie and Lily gazing wide-eyed from the window, innocence shimmering in their eyes. "Look, Mommy. It's Mr. Collins. He says he has been watching over us." Panic clutched at her throat like a vice. Her children, believing in their protector, had unknowingly invited a sinister puppet master into their lives. The walls of her sanctuary felt like they were closing in. Terror rose within her, fueled by the looming question that hung palpably in the air: had she opened the door to danger itself? Kate's world twisted. The innocence in her children's eyes struck her like a punch to the gut, and as she looked outside, the shadows grew darker with the figure still haunting the edge of her vision. Mr. Collins stood there, an ominous silhouette in the flickering streetlight, a toothy grin etched across his face. Every fiber of her being screamed to pull her children away from the window, to shield them from the very existence of this man. "Come away from there, kids." She tried to keep her voice steady, but it cracked like dried leaves underfoot. Jamie's face twisted in confusion, and Lily, ever the curious one, turned to her mother, a perplexed frown crossing her delicate features. "Why, Mommy? He's nice. He told us he's just here to help." The word help echoed grotesquely in Kate's mind, raising bile in her throat. A million thoughts collided. Could her paranoia have clouded her judgment? Was she misreading every sign? As she pulled her children away from the window, she felt a shiver crawl up her spine, the need to protect them clawing at her insides. "Kids, it's bedtime. Now." Reluctantly, they obeyed, but not before glancing back at Mr. Collins, whose smile somehow widened, stretching to an unnatural degree. She felt trapped in a waking nightmare, as if even closing her eyes wouldn't save her from the insidious threat lurking just beyond her door. The house darkened as the children scampered off to their room, leaving Kate standing unmoored in the dim, flickering light of the living room. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, her heart pounding as if some dreadful entity stood over her shoulder. Her instincts kicked in. She needed to confront Collins, to show him that she wouldn't allow fear to paralyze her. Slipping on her shoes, she paused by the front door, heart hammering. She would confront him. She had to know what twisted game he was playing. Mustering whatever steadiness she could, she stepped onto the porch, the chilly air biting at her skin. "Mr. Collins." She called into the darkness, eyes darting, searching for him. The yard seemed eerily quiet, the shadows betraying any semblance of peace. Then, a rustling noise broke the silence, the crunch of footsteps on dried leaves. Collins stepped from the shadows, his smile seemingly wider than moments ago, stretching to an almost grotesque length. "Ah. Hello, Kate." He called out, his voice smooth like ice. The air thickened, and Kate fought the urge to recoil. "Did you need something? I can help you with anything." The way he said help twisted her stomach. The memories of what she had read flooded her mind, tales of others who had faced horrors in their own homes, and every tale echoing louder than the last. "No, I'm fine," she asserted, panic welling as her voice trembled. "But I do think it's time you leave." His laughter sent chills down her spine, like fingers skittering along her neck. "Oh, but I care for those children. They're so precious. You know I have their best interests at heart." The words dripped with venom, insinuating something darker. As her heartbeat raced, she suddenly felt a tug behind her. A faint pull at her sleeve from Jamie, his voice laced with a mix of confusion and fear. "Mommy, is Mr. Collins coming in to play with us?" The question hung like a noose. "No. You're not coming near my kids." She turned, her voice sharp, ready to protect her little ones at all costs when she spotted Mr. Collins stepping closer, his eyes glinting wildly with a manic edge. But then, it happened. A shape moved behind him, a shadow now creeping towards the light, too fluid to be mere darkness. As Kate staggered back, the cold grip of horror tightened around her heart. "Mommy, what is that?" Jamie whimpered. The figure emerged, and Kate's breath caught in her throat. It wore a mask of despair, eyes hollow like a void, stretching an arm toward them. What had she invited into their lives? As the breathy whispers slithered through the darkness, panic clawed at Kate's sanity. She had to defend them, before it was too late. What had she truly awakened? The answer loomed, and a chilling premonition closed in. How can anyone fight an enemy that watches from the shadows? The chill in the air thickened, wrapping around Kate like a suffocating shroud. The figure in her yard remained. Darkness clung to it, feeding its presence, and its fingers reached out, twisted and skeletal, promising something far worse than mere terror. "Run!" she screamed, her voice unsteady, breaking the spell that ensnared her children. Jamie and Lily, wide-eyed with a mix of confusion and fear, didn't move at first. It was as if the shadows had a hold on them too, trapping them in a web spun from dread. "Mommy!" Jamie's voice trembled, the innocence in his gaze contrasting sharply with the horror surrounding them. "What is it?" The figure's hollow eyes pierced through the night, aching to be seen, almost as if it craved admiration. Behind it, Collins stood unmoving, still smiling as though this calamity pleased him. Kate couldn't comprehend the smile. It was all wrong. Mommy! Lily cried, twisting away from the window as the heavy atmosphere pressed down. What is happening? Get back inside! Kate shouted, her heart racing, pounding against her ribs like a wild beast trying to escape. Now! She shoved the kids through the front door and slammed it shut, the sound reverberating through the silent house. They huddled together, trembling, and Kate pressed her back against the door, her fingers gripping the cool wood. Mommy, what was that? Jamie questioned, voice laced with fear. I don't know, she admitted, her voice shaky. But it's not safe. The darkness beyond the door felt alive, pulsating like a living entity. The children's breaths quickened, an echo of her own racing pulse. She had to think she had to protect them. What do we do? Lily asked, her small voice cracking. Stay here, Kate whispered, forcing her feet to move despite the terror congealing in her stomach. She stumbled toward the kitchen, searching for anything that could serve as a weapon or a shield. Dim light from a single bulb flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls, mocking her. Grabbing a kitchen knife, she felt its cold metal bite into her palm. A flimsy weapon, but it was better than nothing. She turned to the children, who huddled close, eyes wide and frightened. Listen, if I tell you to run, you run to the back door, okay? Don't look back. Just go. The children nodded, understanding the gravity in her voice, but dread still lingered in their eyes. Suddenly, a loud pounding echoed from the front door. It rattled the frame and sent a jolt of panic through her veins. Let me in. Colin's voice drifted through, smooth yet laced with something far more sinister. I just want to help your children. Open the door, Kate. I have a gift for them. The children flinched at his words. Kate's heart raced. Gifts? There was nothing innocuous about this situation. She glanced out the nearest window, the shadow loomed closer, shifting as though it could sense her raw fear. Stay here. She hissed, trying to keep the tremor out of her voice. Mustering darkness-clad bravery, she moved toward the window. Opening it just a crack, she peered outside, praying that whatever creature awaited them might reveal its true form. Perhaps a human face would provide clarity. Instead, the shadow swirled, darkness flooding her senses as the air turned thick and toxic with imminent danger. In that moment, it coalesced, a whispering shape that twisted in and out of sight, the mask-like face turning slowly toward her, the hollow eyes now shimmering with a ghastly hunger. Kate, it whispered, the chilling sound causing goosebumps to race down her arms. It's time to come play. The grip on the knife tightened, and Kate's mind raced. Fear morphed into desperation as she turned to grab the children, but instinct suddenly clawed at her throat. The back door, what if that was all part of the trap? Mommy! Jamie called again, voice piercing through the haze of horror. Shoo! She moved toward them, feeling the weight of decision pressing against her chest. The night had swallowed reason whole. How could she outsmart an enemy that thrived in shadow, one that played mind games? With the weak? Mommy? Lily's small voice was barely above a whisper. A blood-curdling laugh erupted from Colin's outside, slicing through the silence like a knife. We can play hide and seek forever. Kate's heart dropped. They were being watched, trapped in a nightmare they couldn't wake from. Then it hit her, whatever this was, it fed on fear. With newfound determination, she grabbed both of her children by the shoulders and took a step back, her eyes flicking to the door. She might not know how to defeat it, but she knew they had to make a move. Now. On the count of 3, we run, she declared, adrenaline pumping through her veins. Where? Jamie asked, panic rising. Anywhere but here. As the pounding continued, urgency clawed at her. 1, 2, then came a sudden shattering of glass behind her, the sound ringing through the room like a death knell. Run! The air itself quaked as they bolted forward, into the unknown, into whatever darkness awaited them outside. What would they find in the night? In a sinister game without rules? Could they still escape what was already inside? The moment the words left her lips, a low, guttural growl echoed through the walls, filled with menace. Kate felt the air shift as if an unseen force pressed against her chest, urging her to stay. But she couldn't allow herself to be paralyzed by fear. Go! She shouted, shoving her kids forward. They darted through the small hallway, each step heavier than the last. Each pound of their little feet felt like thunder, and the shadows seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the inevitable catch. The kitchen door groaned as Kate pushed it open. The wind from outside shrieked through the gap, mixing with the muffled laughter that taunted her from the darkened yard. Then came a crash, the front door splintering under a fierce blow. Colin's silhouette loomed in the doorway, fingers stretched wide like a spider ready to ensnare its prey. The lantern light fragmented, flickering desperately as if begging for salvation. "Mommy!" Jamie screamed, his voice carrying the essence of pure terror that sent chills racing down her spine. The backyard was their only hope, an escape plan etched in desperation. It was a deep breath of fresh air lined with the scent of impending doom. The children sprinted ahead while Kate followed closely, knife clutched tight, a fragile hope against a void that threatened to swallow them whole. Outside, the night didn't greet them, it cackled, whispering of secrets long buried beneath the earth. The moon, obscured by drifting clouds, provided only enough light for Kate to see shapes moving in the corner of her eye, dark glasses gliding just beyond reach. "Over here!" she shouted, pointing to the rickety old shed at the edge of their yard. "Quickly!" As they made their way toward it, Jamie stumbled, nearly collapsing as he blurted, "What if it gets us?" For a moment, fear threatened to seize her too. Glancing back, she froze, her breath hitching. The shadow was close now, too close. It twisted and coiled in on itself, fingers grasping at the air as though playing with them, teasingly reluctant to strike. "Move!" Kate urged, nearly dragging her son to his feet. She threw a glance back just as Colin stepped outside, the ghastly grin on his face stretching impossibly wide. They dove into the shed, darkness enveloping them like a comforting blanket yet stifling any sense of safety. The air was thick with the scent of damp wood and rust. The children huddled against the far wall, trembling. "Can it see us?" Lily whispered, eyes wide with fright. "We'll be okay," Kate lied, her voice barely escaping as a whimper. She pressed a finger to her lips, signaling silence. The sounds of the night were painted in terror, branches snapping, footsteps crunching on leaves. She couldn't hear Collins anymore, which unnerved her even more. Had he followed them? Thump thump, her heart drummed loudly in her chest, each beat a warning. Something shifted just outside their sanctuary. Shadows layered over shadows, dark forms danced in the twilight, drawing ever closer. "Mommy, make it stop," Jamie begged, clinging to her arm. The shed creaked, and out of the silence came a voice echoing, twisted, ethereal. "Kate, come out wherever you are, I know you're in there." Her breath caught. It wasn't Collins. No, it was something far worse. The voice held the essence of the shadows, of the figure they fled from. The very dark that hunted them. "I'll count to 10, it taunted, sounding closer. "You wouldn't want to play hide and seek with me, would you?" 1, 2, 3. Kate's thoughts raced. They were trapped. If they didn't escape, there would be no tomorrow. "Just breathe," she whispered to her kids, her heart pounding in cadence with the counting outside. "On my mark, we run back to the house." "Why the house?" Jamie exclaimed, eyes flaring with confusion. "Because I need to find something." "Something to fight it?" Lily added, trying to sound brave, but her small voice betrayed her. "Yes," she declared, infused with desperation. The counting continued, encroaching upon them, poisoning the air. 6, 7. The door creaked on its hinges, sputtering like a dying flame, any small hopes of shelter fading as the shadow loomed larger, almost imperceptibly shifting. 8 now. Kate shouted and burst out of the shed, dragging the kids with her, racing into the open, light ahead promising safety even in its guise of harsh reality. Each step felt like a pact with fear, the darkness closing in behind them, the voice howling with glee at their attempt to escape. Would they make it? Or would they stumble again, caught in the snare of something they couldn't comprehend? Go, keep going. A desperate sprint, pulse racing, the door loomed before them. But as they neared, shadows in the periphery began to coalesce, swirling with malicious intent. Familiar voices drifted on the wind, echoes from every window, mocking their fight. Run, yes, but where will you go? As Jamie flung the door open, cold air swept in like a monster gnashing teeth. The final act of desperation awaited them, but would the refuge they sought become their gravest mistake? With hearts pounding, they moved closer, hoping beyond hope to outrun the bends and corners of darkness that loomed over them. What awaited them inside? They raced through the doorway, the air inside the house thick with the scent of dampness and despair. Kate slammed the door shut behind them, but it felt like a weak barrier against the chaos lurking just outside. The shadows curled at the edges of her vision, pulsating with life, desperate to breach their sanctuary. "Mommy, it's so dark," Jamie whispered, eyes darting around the room, filled with apprehension. "Just hold on," Kate managed to breathe out, her voice trembling. She blinked, adjusting to the dimness, her heart racing as she scanned for anything that could help. They needed to end this. Now. "Where's the light?" Lily's voice cracked. Kate spotted the switch by the kitchen entrance. She ran to it, fingers brushing against the cold, peeling paint, every second stretching out as she hesitated. The counting resumed in her mind. 4, 5. She flicked the switch, and the room exploded into brightness, shadows scuttling back into the corners. "Look!" Jamie tugged at her sleeve, pointing toward the old family portrait hanging crookedly on the wall. The whispers of the night recoiled, yet a low, chilling wind swept in through the cracks, making the hair on her arms stand. What was left of a once happy family stared back at her, their eyes once vibrant now shrouded in darkness. Kate's stomach twisted. "We need to find the knife," she urged, urgency filling her. "It's in the drawer." Her heart sank as she crossed the room. With every footfall, it felt like the floor was crumbling beneath her. The drawer slid open with a reluctant creak. She rummaged through forks and old dust, panic mounting in her throat. It wasn't there. "Mommy, it's getting closer," Jamie whimpered. "Quiet. Just let me think," Kate snapped, frustration bubbling over. Goosebumps spread across her skin, echoing the tension coiling in the air around them. A flicker. In the corner of the living room, the shadows quivered ominously. She swung toward it just as a figure stepped into the light, a man, but not Collins. This one was dressed in a tattered gray suit, his face obscured beneath a wide-brimmed hat. The brim hung low, casting darkness over his features, a wicked smile creeping across his lips. "Where do you think you're going?" His voice dripped with malice, each word edged with a mocking tone. Kate felt the chill of his gaze, freezing her in place. "Stay away!" she shouted, backing towards the children. Her grip tightened around the empty drawer handle, a futile shield against the terror unfurling before her. "Mommy!" Jamie's hands trembled, pulling on her shirt. "What does he want?" Just wait." Kate could barely muster a response. "They couldn't surrender." "Not now," but the man continued, stepping closer, and with every step, Kate could feel him dragging shadows in his wake. "I'm just here to play," he said, tilting his head. "And I have a game you might be forgotten." The walls of that familiar home seemed to shudder, history creeping through the cracks, memories turning rotten. "Collins will come for you soon," he added, the ghostly grin unwavering. "Still so easily spooked, aren't you?" Kate's mind raced, a plan forming amidst the chaos of fear. She spotted a heavy vase on a nearby table. It could be used as a weapon. But the real danger loomed, a predator intent on drawing them deeper into the nightmarish game. before she could act, Jamie cried out. "It's behind you." She whirled around just in time to see the shadows merge, a black mass spilling into the room, rising with a hunger that snatched the breath from her lungs. "Run!" Kate screamed, shoving her kids away from the encroaching darkness. She felt the tug of terror pulling at them, staving off the overwhelming panic that threatened to drown her, but as her feet stumbled, they all rushed toward the kitchen door once more, desperation igniting their speed. Light flickered ominously, as if sensing their plight, yet casting a false sense of security within its brightness. "Where do we go?" Lily cried, her voice nearly lost in the cacophony of racing hearts. The man laughed, the blend of shadows tightening around him like a cloak. "Oh, you'll find out soon enough." With the weight of the world pressing down on them, they barreled through the door, desperate to break free of the house and whatever harrowing nightmare awaited them outside. Would they escape the clutches of this new horror? Or were they merely waking more of the dark lurking within their own walls? The chilling reality hung over them as they crossed the threshold only to find a new horror waiting on the other side. The moment they stepped outside, an eerie silence blanketed the world. The storm that had loomed just moments ago had vanished, leaving a thick fog rolling over the ground, swallowing the yard whole. The sun was gone, the sky a bruised shade of gray. Kate glanced back at the house, its windows like dark eyes watching them, waiting for their next move. Mommy Jamie's voice quivered, a ghost of fear lingering in the air. What if he follows us? Shoo. She held a finger to her lips, heart pounding. She looked around, desperate to find something, anything that felt familiar. But every tree stood like a twisted skeleton, limbs reaching out as if they were alive, ready to snatch them back into the darkness. "Where do we go?" Lily whimpered, grabbing her mother's hand tightly. The neighborhood felt foreign, the houses leaning as if they were tired of holding up their roofs, worn down and creaky. Kate tried to muster the strength that was slowly seeping from her. "We need to reach the park at the end of the street. It's our best chance to find someone," she said, voice shaking with mingled fear and determination. They started down the sidewalk, each step echoing in the silence like a distant drum. Shadows danced behind them, teasing every time they turned their heads, only to see nothing but fog. Kate could feel her pulse in her throat, thrumming with anxiety, urging her forward. As they reached the first corner, the faint sound of laughter broke through the air, a child's laughter. It was bright but somehow tainted, sending a shiver down Kate's spine. "Did you hear that?" she whispered urgently. Jamie nodded, eyes wide. "Maybe it's someone else," he said, hope creeping back into his voice. "Stay close," Kate warned, straining to discern the source of the sound. They pressed deeper into the fog, hearing the giggles coming from an empty swing set, swaying to an invisible breeze. The chains creaked rhythmically, as if someone had just been there playing, swinging, laughing. "Let us just go. Come on," Kate urged, wanting to pull her children away from the unsettling scene. But before she could step back, a glimmer caught her eye, the glint of metal lying beneath the swing. It was bright against the gloom. A chill seized her, but her curiosity won out. "Wait here," she told the kids, moving toward the swing. The laughter faded to a whisper, echoing into nothingness. As she bent down to retrieve the object, she froze. It was a knife, small but gleaming with a sharpness that whispered danger. She grasped it tight, feeling the cold grip against her palm. No doubt it was once the weapon of someone lost to the night. Before she could stand, the laughter crescendoed around her, disorienting her. It was not just one child, now it seemed like a chorus, rising and falling, full of mirth and malice. "Mommy!" Jamie screamed, "Get back!" She jerked her head up, heart racing as shadows materialized around them. From the thickness of the fog, figures flickered to life, children with hollow eyes, their grins wide and sinister, emerging as if from a nightmare. They swirled around her like lost souls, then stopped dead, their voices turning into an unsettling chant. "Come play with us. Come play forever." Panic shot through Kate like ice water. She whirled back to the kids, the knife clutched tightly in her fist. "Run! Now!" she shouted, her voice cracking, as the dark figures wove closer. Jamie and Lily took off, but the shadows reached for them, clawing and grasping as if they could pull them into the fog. "Mommy!" Lily cried, terror making her voice small. "Keep running!" Kate yelled, eyes darting as she tried to protect them from the encroaching darkness. The figures were too fast, blending with the shadows, whispering their invitation. She sprinted after her children, fear coiling like a snake in her chest. They were close to the road now, but with each step the laughter crescendoed, echoing and overlapping, begging her to stop. As they neared safety, Kate risked a glance back. The children were gone, hidden in the fog, but the laughter erupted around her. She felt a cold hand graze her back, a whisper brushing against her ear, "You can't escape the game, Kate." The world warped around her, trembling with the weight of an unearthly presence. She had thought to leave the house, yet what if the true horror lay in the very ground beneath her feet? In that moment, doubt slashed at her resolve, and with every heartbeat, the realization sank in: they were not alone. Where had her children gone? And what was coming for them next? Kate stood frozen, her heart hammering against her chest, the knife steady in her grip. The laughter, now a relentless echo, seeped deeper into the fog, twisting her thoughts like vines, strangling her sanity. The chill prickled more fiercely, and she felt the weight of unseen eyes watching her every move, hungry and expectant. "Jamie! Lily!" she gasped, voice emerging as a strained whisper. Panic threatened to swallow her whole. The fear was tangible, like a thick smoke enveloping her lungs. Where could they be? The fog rolled back, teasing at her line of sight. "Get back!" she shouted, but her words collided with the laughter, lost in its sinister melody. Desperation clawed at her throat. She took a shaky step forward, straining to pierce the murky white. Rounding the swing set, she searched frantically. The figures were still there. A creeping dread poured from her mind into the very ground she stood upon. A soft sob broke the illusion, a sound that felt real, tethered to the sanity of the moment. "Mommy!" It was Jamie. Her heart soared and fell at once. "Jamie! Where are you?" She lunged into the unknown. "Over here!" he called, his voice bravely echoing from somewhere deeper in the park. The familiar roots of hope ignited, but they burned with uncertainty. As she moved, the laughter returned, its tone shifting, skewing reality. It was a chaotic symphony of glee and malice. "Lily!" she cried, an edge of hysteria creeping in. A noise rippled through the fog, the unmistakable sound of chains rattling. The swing that had once seemed innocent now appeared as an ominous signal. A chill traveled down her spine, wrapping her in dread. Without warning, the fog shifted again, revealing a path, a crooked, twisted line leading deeper into the trees. She hesitated, the aura of the place felt alive with threats. "Mommy, I can't see you." Jamie's voice broke through her hesitation, shaking her resolve. "Keep talking. I'm coming," she yelled, racing toward the sound. The shadows twisted around her as she forged ahead, each step echoing her heartbeat. The swing set loomed behind her, its whispers growing faint. Then came another sound, sharper than laughter, a child's scream, piercing and raw. It sent shockwaves through Kate, urging her feet to quicken. "Don't worry. I'm coming." She stumbled, nearly losing her footing, and the darkness threatened to swallow her. Suddenly, out of the haze, a small figure emerged. "Mommy!" Lily's face appeared, full of tears and streaked with dirt. Relief flooded through Kate, pushing back the tide of dread. She reached out, ready to pull her daughter to safety, but just then, shadows unfurled from the trees, whispering her name. "Kate!" They coiled around Lily, their fingers like cold mist, reaching, yearning. "No!" She screamed and lunged forward, grasping Lily's hand tightly, dragging her with all her strength. "Mommy! It's pulling me!" Lily screamed, fighting against something unseen. With every ounce of desperation, Kate pulled her daughter close, the knife clutched yet useless. The figures writhed, their laughter melding into an ominous chant that echoed and warped reality. "Run!" Kate howled, thrusting them forward through the fog. They barreled down the path, hearts racing in sync. But the fog thickened around them, shaping walls of shadow that seemed intent on closing in. "Mommy, Jamie!" Lily cried, tears now mixing with fear as they raced toward a glimmer of light. A streetlight flickered in the distance. "No! Jamie!" Kate's heart sank again. She couldn't lose another child. The laughter rose to a crescendo, full of despair, trailing behind them like a monster just out of reach. She could sense the darkness clawing for them, smell the decay of the park, as the figures taunted them with promises of their doom. The light grew closer, a flicker of hope, but also the looming sense that safety was waiting just out of reach. "Hold on," Kate urged, but before they could find safety, pain sliced through them, the fog thick with terror. Would they make it? "Mommy!" Lily sobbed harder, and Kate's vision blurred with desperation. A cold shadowed hand clasped around her ankle, pulling her back. All Kate could do was scream as darkness closed in once again. And then she felt it, a sudden stillness, and the laughter faded into silence, leaving only the sound of her own frantic breathing. What waited in the light? Would they truly escape the fog's grips, or would something darker await them? In the suffocating quiet, a whisper, soft and chilling, "You can't run from what you've already invited in." Kate felt the cold breath of the fog all around her, as if it had thickened into a living wall. The whisper lingered, echoing in her ears, mixing with the rising panic in her chest. Just when she thought she was lost to the darkness, the gentle pressure of Lily's hand anchored her back to reality. "Mommy, please don't let go." "I won't let go," Kate promised, her voice trembling. Still, the shadows writhed and coiled, hungry for a piece of her despair. Then, just as she drew a shaky breath, the light flickered violently, casting jagged silhouettes against the fog. It revealed half-formed shapes, twisting into grotesque smiles that seemed to mock her. The laughter had changed. Now it was hissing, a stream of sinister delight. "Keep moving," Kate urged. They stumbled forward, the promise of escape just ahead. But the flickering light dimmed faster than she could run. With every step, it felt like they were being pulled backward, sucked into a vortex of despair. "Mommy, I'm scared." Lily's voice trembled, her innocent fear gnawing at Kate's heart. "It's okay, baby. We're almost there. Just a bit further." Yet her spirit faltered. The chains rattled again, echoing louder, wrapping around them like greasy tendrils of smoke. Suddenly, a scream pierced through the fog. This one was different. It was Jamie. "Jamie!" Kate shouted, her heart plunging. The scream ricocheted through her bones, crystal clear and agonizing. "Mommy, what if we can't get him?" Lily whimpered. "No. We will get him. It's just," she hesitated, a dread pooling in the pit of her stomach. "I swear we will." Every word was a lie, each breath a struggle against the encroaching shadows. The trees surrounding them held secrets, whispers entwined with the wind. They reached a clearing, the dim light barely carving a sanctuary from the darkness. Kate scanned the area, her breath falling shallow. What if he wasn't there? The thought twisted her gut. "Jamie." Her voice quivered, swallowed by the thick air. "Mommy," answered a fragile voice, not too far off. It was a beacon, a thread of hope weaving through the suffocating dread. Lily squeezed her hand tighter. "Mommy, I can't see him." "I know, but we'll find him. Just stay close." Kate surged toward the sound. Panic burst within her, darting between hope and fear, ready to pull her under. In the distance, illuminated shapes lurked, trees bending to an invisible force, their branches clawing at the air as if warning her to turn back. Then suddenly, Jamie appeared, crushed against a tree, eyes wide with horror. Mom. He reached out, his small hands trembling like leaves caught in a storm. Hold on, I'm coming. I'm coming. Kate shouted, but the shadows thickened around them, malevolent and alive. She could feel the fog wrap around her, icy fingers gripping at her heels. Mommy, help! Jamie screamed, his panicked voice splintering Kate's heart. The laughter roared back, drowning out her pleas. No! Don't you dare take him! She shouted, the words bursting from her throat more out of instinct than reason. Rushing to Jamie, she grabbed his hand, pulling him away from the dark embrace of the tree. But as soon as she did, the shadows surged forward, swirling and shifting, wrapping around her and Lily. In a heartbeat, the laughter morphed again into a despairing wail, and Kate felt her strength begin to drain. The trees closed in, blocking their path, darkness thickening into a choking mist. Mommy, I can't breathe. Lily cried, her tiny voice barely audible over the menacing whispers that grew louder, thrumming with a dissonant rhythm. Kate's voice echoed, softer now. It wasn't the boy's. It was the fog, slithering into her mind again. Why won't you let us in? Get away! She howled, dragging both children, but the shadows tightened their grip, holding them in place, feasting on her panic. Just as despair threatened to take hold, a blinding light pierced through the fog from behind her, illuminating the obscured figures. The world around them shifted as sound and vision warped. It was a car, headlights cutting through the veil, illuminating the silhouettes. Twisted and grotesque. They retreated, shrieking in venomous rage. What is happening? Kate's heart raced as she felt the energy shift, the weight of darkness lifting ever so slightly. Mommy, run! Jamie shouted, suddenly yanking at her hand. She turned to see the figures fading, lost in the swirling fog. The light grew closer, beckoning them. Was it salvation? Or a cruel trick? With every ounce of strength, Kate yanked her children towards it, uncertainty breaking through the edges of her mind. But then a shadow lunged from the side, racing for Jamie. Time seemed to stall, stretching taut like a wire, and it was all failing. The laughter rang loud once more, echoing with their grief. Was she fast enough? Would hope betray them all? Clutching her knife as if it were a lifeline, dread consuming her, they surged forward despite the malevolence hanging in the air. The truth was closing in on them, but in the shimmer of hope, a new terror emerged. Tonight, the fog was hungry, and Kate was no longer sure what it craved. The darkness lunged, a shadowy blur that soared toward Jamie, but Kate was quicker. She yanked him to her side just in time. The black mass stopped short, hissing as it twisted back into the fog. It sensed her defiance and recoiled. Run! Now! Kate urged, adrenaline fueling her feet. She was in motion, dragging Lily and Jamie away from the encroaching gloom. The car's headlights became an invitation, a sanctuary in a world gone mad. With each hurried step, the fog thickened, swirling around her like a serpent prepared to strike. She could hear the laughter of the shadows echoing, taunting. They were losing ground, and with every step, dread began to coil tighter around her lungs. Mommy! The car! Jamie gasped, his little legs struggling to keep pace. I see it! She shouted, pushing herself to move faster. Shadows danced directly behind them now, clawing at the edges of her vision. As they approached, the car's engine sputtered, a low growl that felt sinister amidst the chaos. Its driver sat frozen behind the wheel, eyes wide and unblinking. But it didn't matter, they had to get inside. Open the door! Kate yelled, banging her fist against the window, desperate to breach the barrier between safety and horror. Panic seemed to paralyze the driver more than the fog around them. Mommy, please! Lily whimpered, her voice trembling. Just hold on, we're almost there. Kate felt the eye of the storm towering just behind them, ready to consume every last flicker of hope. Time stretched painfully, and then the car door swung open. The driver didn't speak, their expression locked in fear, but Kate didn't care. She shoved Jamie and Lily in first, following like a frightened deer fleeing a wolf. "Drive! Drive!" she screamed, her heart pounding as she glanced over her shoulder. Laughter erupted behind them, a chilling cacophony that sent shivers racing through her body. The car spluttered and kicked to life, pulling away from the clearing with a jolt. But as they left the fog behind, Kate glanced back. Shapes were materializing in the rearview mirror, stretching, elongating, their gnarled faces grinning wider than the confines of their twisted forms. "What were those things?" Jamie asked, his voice hoarse. "I don't know." Kate whispered. "I don't know." Lily pressed her small, trembling hands against her mom's arm. Will they follow us?" The driver turned to her, still wordless, yet his eyes spoke a language of terror and resignation. "It's okay, kids. We're safe now." Yet her own voice sounded hollow, echoing in the cabin like as the car sped away, the world began to break apart. The streetlights blurred into hazy streaks, shadows merging like ink in water. The road was consuming them, folding in on itself. And just when they thought they might escape, a low growl emerged from the car's engine, followed by a horrible grinding sound. The driver slammed on the brakes, glancing around in panic. "What's happening?" Kate's nerves were shot. Then the lights flickered once, twice before plunging them into darkness. The fog had returned, creeping inside the vehicle, making it feel unbearably tight. No, this can't be happening." Kate grasped the handle of her knife, sweat slicking her palms. "Mommy, I'm scared." Lily cried again, her voice trembling more than the car shaking beneath them. In the silence that followed, a shiver crawled down Kate's spine. Something was adjusting itself, the fog tasted her fear. She could sense it drawing closer, undulating like a shark circling its prey. "Get back!" The driver yelled suddenly, throwing open his door. "What are you doing?" Kate shouted, spinning to stop him. But he was already gone, swallowed by the darkness as the door swung shut with a deafening thud. "Stay close, hand on my arm." Kate barked at her children, heart racing. The walls had begun to tremble, shadows crept along the floor of the car, wrapping around her feet like a vine. Then, as if conjured by her panic, figures appeared in the fog outside, their features grotesque, distorted, and clawing at the car's frame. "Mommy, make it stop!" Jamie wailed, flooding Kate with a sense of urgency she wished to ignore. "Hold on!" she cried again, gripping her knife tightly. The door next to her bulged outward, as if something beyond was trying to get in, trying to lure them out. The chill flooded in alongside the fog, seeping through the cracks, filling her with dread. They were being hunted, with the world exploding around them. Kate knew it was a matter of time. The shadows were gaining ground, their laughter turning sinister again. How long before they broke through? How long before they claimed their prize? Suddenly, the car shook violently as a shadow banged against the roof. The driver was gone, the dark enclosing every thought, suffocating any hope. Then the fog shifted with a slithering murmur. "Join us," it hissed softly, Kate's breath caught in her throat. The truth settled like lead in her stomach, this wasn't about escape anymore. It was about survival, and as she locked eyes with her children, resolve hardened within her. She would fight. She would not let them win. But at what cost? As the darkness pressed in, threatening to envelop them all in its wicked embrace, a chilling thought pierced her mind. What if the fog had never wanted them to leave? The laughter echoed, a prelude of what was yet to come. What exactly did the darkness desire? The air was thick with darkness, swirling around Kate, Jamie, and Lily as they huddled in the car, hearts beating in synchrony under the weight of impending doom. Shadows pressed against the windows, clawing at the glass like ravenous creatures eager to break in. The fog whispered cruel secrets, unfurling promises of despair. Memories of laughter haunted the air, a vivid reminder of innocence lost. "Mommy, I'm scared," Lily trembled, her voice barely breaking through the din of panic. Kate's heart ached at the sight of her daughter, her wide eyes shimmering with tears. "We're going to be okay," Kate assured, even as doubt clawed at the edges of her mind. But she knew one thing with fierce clarity: they had to fight. The shadows outside grew darker, thickening like a storm cloud, the laughter echoing from their depths a melody of malice. "Join us forever," the voice cooed, promising an unfathomable nightmare. Kate's grip on her knife tightened, the cold metal grounding her in a world spiraling into chaos. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed off the roof of the car, making them all jump. "No!" Kate shouted, her voice dripping with urgency. "We have to get out. Now!" She yanked the handle, flinging the door open, and they spilled into the darkness, adrenaline overriding fear. "Mommy, take my hand!" Jamie yelled, his small fingers finding hers as they stumbled forward into the murky fog. The air felt alive, heavy with eyes that watched, but they pressed on, driven by pure survival instinct. They sprinted down the cracked sidewalk, every shadow threatening to swallow them whole. "What if they find us?" Jamie panted, fear etched onto his face. Kate's heart twisted at the sound of her child's panic. "They won T." She gritted her teeth, determination flooding her veins. "If we can just make it to the park, there are people there. We can find help." The trees loomed like sentinels, their branches gnarled and twisted, but the silhouettes of children began to appear amidst the fog, a haunting echo of wrongness. "Come play with us," they sang, their hollow eyes glowing with insidious delight, a siren call to draw them closer. "Don't look at them," Kate barked as they passed, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. She could feel the weight of the darkness, coiling and shifting, and she pulled Jamie and Lily tighter to her side. The park gates came into view, rusted and ominous. "We're almost there," she shouted, pushing them forward, desperate to reach the light beyond. But just as they approached, the ground beneath trembled, and the fog thickened. Shadows coiled around the playground, forming a wall of darkness, standing guard against their escape. The laughter crescendoed into a cacophony, a mocking timbre that echoed in Kate's ears. "Mommy, they're coming!" Jamie cried, his voice slicing through the haze. "Stay with me," Kate commanded, adrenaline coursing through her as she brandished the knife. The time for fear was over. "Stay close. We can't let them take us." But the shadows reached for them, languid fingers weaving through the air, desperate to ensnare. "You can't leave. You can't escape us," they taunted. With one final surge of willpower, Kate found her strength. "I refuse. You will not take my children." Adrenaline propelled her forward again as she led them through the swirling fog, knocking aside the shadows that sought to cling to them like a suffocating blanket. Suddenly, a blinding light pierced through the fog, revealing a clearing where silhouettes of familiar faces awaited. "Mommy!" Lily tugged at her hand, hope shining through her fearful eyes. Kate gasped, tears spilling down her cheeks as she pulled her children closer. The figures in the distance morphed into those she recognized, neighbors and friends whose faces shone under fading streetlights. "Help us!" she shouted, scrambling toward them, lungs burning from the chase. "Kate! Over here!" A neighbor's voice rang out. A woman waved urgently, signaling them in. Quickly! With a burst of speed, they stumbled into the welcoming arms of safety, their friends enveloping them in tight hugs. Kate collapsed, panting as they shielded them from the enveloping dark. "Stay together!" shouted the men, forming a human chain around them. The laughter faded, swallowed by the sheer force of light and humanity. The figures faltered at the edges of the light, mouths moving silently, and went still. "Go back!" one of them shrieked, retreating into the fog, but Kate stood resolute, holding her children tight. "You can't take my family," she uttered, the fire inside her simmering defiantly against the encroaching night. As dawn broke, the shadows retreated, dissolving under the first light of day. The warmth began to fill the air, thinning the fog like a delicate veil stripped away. "Are we safe?" Jamie asked, nestled against her. Yes, sweetheart, Kate whispered, tears of relief streaming down her face. We're safe now. With the darkness behind them, Kate finally breathed in the dawn of a new day, a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. She knew the fight was not over, but they had survived the storm together. Let us go home, she said, leading her children back towards their safe haven, their sanctuary from the horrors that had once lurked within its walls. As they walked into the light, a sense of peace settled over them, enveloping the pain and fear of the past. No longer trapped in nightmarish shadows, Kate promised to shield her children from any darkness that dared approach. Mommy, will they come back? Lily asked, looking up with bright eyes filled with hopeful innocence. Kate smiled down at her little girl. Not as long as we stand together. We're stronger than they'll ever know. And with that, they turned their backs to the dark, ready to embrace the light of the new day with unshakable hope for the future. Be a part of this journey. You need to subscribe now and hit that bell so you don't miss the next heart-pounding story coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and let us know how you felt about this wild conclusion in the comments below. We want to hear your theories and reactions because your voice matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who crave a thrilling tale like this. Show your support and let us keep this amazing community alive.